Matt O'Connor is with us. Hooray! How are you, Matt?
Very well, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Good to see you.
Sorry about the kind of, I suppose, not spontaneous. What's the word for the aircon unit in here at the moment, Ash?
It's a fan.
Impromptu.
I've got a mic
what's the name of the device? I know what it is.
Makeshift.
Makeshift. Yeah.
It's okay. It's cool. It's cool.
It's cool and it's
better than where I've been for the rest of the day. So
right. Does anybody know the answer to this? If anybody works in this area, this is the third place I've been to today, including the train I was on, including the gym I went to when I finally got back, and this place, all of which have broken air conditioning on the hottest day of the year. Is it because the aircon works extra hard or something?
Who knows? But I'm just concerned about Blue. It was obviously black and blue. But maybe he was his owner was Korean, because apparently they say old Korean saying is a dog isn't just for Christmas. With any luck, it will last through the Boxing Day.
That's right. Yes. And before anybody starts writing in, saying you can't stereotype Koreans like that.
No.
Well, actually,
my mother's Korean. My mother's Korean.
There you go.
Little known fact.
Matt's mother's Korean. Not many people know that. And Koreans do actually happen to eat dog, by the way. You know,
they love it.
Some parts of China do, and we mentioned this yesterday during the Olympics. You know, they've cut back. They've told all the restaurants. Yep. It's brilliant what they've done in China. They've just pretended not to be China for a few months. It's like, right, we're not going to kill anybody for disagreeing with the government. We're not going to do that. We want to clean the place up. We don't want any smog. Anyone caught thieving, we'll just bury or something.
No canine cuisine.
No canine cuisine.
No nuts.
None of
Nothing
that.
like that. No.
They don't want any of that stuff. So suddenly, for a couple of months, going to Beijing is going to be almost like going to Milton Keynes.
Unless, of course, you're a Fathers for Justice protester going to the Olympics, in which case you may find yourself one of the pens out there.
That's very true.
Prisons, yeah.
Well, that's very true. Listen, you boys are always in trouble, Matt.
Occupational hazard.
Well, I passed Harriet Harman the other day in the House of Commons.
Lovely woman.
I was about to stop her, and this coincided with your boys getting back on her roof for the second time. And I was going to stop her and say, Harriet, you know, what's the deal here? You know, are you actually going to have a chat to these people, or are you just going to go on the telly and pretend you've agreed to have a chat, but then not have a chat at all? Now, what I've just said there is about right, isn't it? Because she always seems to say, the way to do this is to have a proper meeting. You guys have tried to have a proper meeting.
Yeah.
They've said, we don't want to have a proper meeting.
No, I mean, Harriet, God bless her, she's the government's answer to the sort of feminist Taliban, and she speaks highly of us. But I had actually written to Harriet a couple of years ago,
right,
through my MP, and asked for a meeting, and she wrote back. Obviously, escaped her memory at the time. She had some protesters on the roof. And she said, no, I won't meet you. And we did the same with Peter Hain when he was Secretary of State at the Department for Work and Pensions, and he wrote back and said he wouldn't meet us. So I don't know what we do when they won't engage in dialogue. So we've taken back, unfortunately, again, to rooftop diplomacy.
No, but let me look at their side of things, because I think you have been a bit naughty on this. I mean, lobbying, you know, what somebody thought was a load of explosives into the House of Commons was not your finest moment, Matt. I mean, I've spoken to MPs who still to this day shudder when they think of what might have happened at that moment.
Well, I think I saw some Tory MPs sniffing the floor of the House of Commons fair. I think they thought it was cocaine, actually, but purple cocaine. Obviously, it's a new fashionable drug. I don't know. Look, you know, we're in the business of attracting attention for a very serious cause, and unfortunately, for the last 30 years, politicians in this country have done absolutely nothing about an issue which is now resulting in this awful and grotesque bloody harvest of bullets and blades, which is seeing kids killing kids on the streets of our capital city.
It's interesting you've made that correlation between, you know, fatherless kids in a way, and you don't say this flippantly. You believe that this almost disorder that is intrinsic in some areas in this country, in some cities, in some pockets of cities, is completely connected to the absent father issue.
Yeah, I mean, if you remove one parent from a child, it's like an emotional amputation. Kids will fall over. And I think that those people who thought single parenting was going to be some kind of social panacea have got it severely wrong. Everybody, apart from the politicians, everybody you speak to recognises that fathers need to be involved in the upbringing of their children. What this government has done is effectively act as almost like a surrogate parent, is replace the father. It provides the economic support for mothers to be independent of fathers, and fathers now are almost optional extras. We have become cash points. We're not dads. And I think what we're trying to say is fathers and child support should mean emotional and financial support to your children, and fathers should have responsibilities to bring up their children, but they should have rights to see those children as well. And until we break this kind of taboo, because it is a kind of taboo, nobody wants to talk about the issue of fathers unless they're stereotyping dads. And I was very disappointed to see Barack Obama resorting to gender stereotyping, blaming all black fathers for walking away from their kids, and see David Cameron saying exactly the same thing. It's actually not that black and white. It's a very complex area, and what politicians need to be saying is that the best way of us tackling social breakdown, family breakdown, is to plug fathers back into families and let those fathers who want to be good, loving, responsible parents who have been denied access for our secret family courts, they should be allowed to get on with the job of being parents, and then we can get on with the job of packing up as in Fathers of Justice, allowing us to get back to our lives and looking after our kids.
On the face, everything you've just said, that makes perfect sense.
Well, it should do, but it doesn't to a lot of people. It doesn't to Harriet Harman.
But do you think what happened, though, Matt, is that when you first did a superhero stunt, I can't remember what the first one was it Tower Bridge? Or?
I think Tower Bridge was the first one where it really kind of took off.
That was the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It was a Sunday, I believe. I just seem to
where he went up on I think on the Friday.
Did it?
And then come the Monday, it really did kick off because the police deliberately closed the roads. It was fair.
Well, didn't we have David Blaine on the other side of the bridge, hanging in a box?
Far more drab and less colourful.
David Shame says us here in this studio, but no one else. Wasn't the problem that the minute that almost grabbed the headlines, that people straight away thought, hang on, these people are trouble. So, although it's an active protest, and it highlighted the cause, and it got in all the papers, and people like me came on the radio and started talking about it, and I remember getting collared in the traffic at the time, driving that route in because of what happened. So it worked in that respect, but in another respect, what you gained, you sort of lost, because politicians thought, oh my God, no, these guys are nuts, because you did something unconventional. However good or original it might have been, it in fact was your finest moment turned out to be your worst moment in many ways.
Well, I don't think it's worse, that we're not, hanging out with a bunch of cross-dressers from Parliament. Everybody's wearing each other's clothes. I really don't mind that if we're disliked and become an outlaw organisation.
Yeah.
We've always stuck to peaceful, non-violent direct action with a dash of humour. Politicians don't find it funny. Frankly, we revel in the absurdity of what we have to do to try and put this issue into the headline, to get people talking about it. And you say that, but organisations like the BBC only ever talk about this when somebody is on a rooftop, when somebody's on Buckingham Palace, when somebody's paddleboarding with the Prime Minister. It's the only time we get any kind of debate about what's happening.
So is there not a bit of panorama with Fathers for Justice in it?
Nobody wants to engage in a serious and intelligent debate about it. And, we've tried the conventional route, we've tried writing letters, we've tried constructive engagement with government, and government basically slammed the door in our faces. So as far as I'm concerned, we don't have an option or an alternative strategy other than to go out there, rattle the cages, do what we do best, do what we're known for, and if we're unpopular with the politicians, hey, I'll live with it. I sleep easy at night.
What have been the positives, though, Matt, from these protests? I mean, here's me saying that, you have that danger of doing yourself as much harm as you do good, but from an internal perspective, from Fathers for Justice, from your own point of view as the founder of Fathers for Justice, have you changed anything? Has there been any progress?
I mean, there's huge... What we've done, and I guess when I first started this, we had a 3-year plan.
Yes.
Clearly and clearly I also had it mapped out an escape strategy for myself from the campaign. And but what this campaign has done is evolve. When we started, nobody knew anything about secret family courts in this country. Nobody knew anything about the issue of fatherlessness. Nobody knew anything about the issue about family breakdown. It was a can of worms that we were kind of involved in opening. And what we did was absolutely shoot to pieces any credibility that the family courts have, any public confidence that people have in the family courts. There is no confidence in the family justice system in this country anymore. We've done that. We've affected climate change. What I hadn't banked on strategically was that our politicians and our churchmen would be so absolutely gutless and morally, they've just totally washed their hands. It's an incredibly serious issue.
It's a good point.
And I really thought that the Church of England, let's forget about gay and lesbian priests, let's forget about all the other issues in the world. They haven't debated family breakdown since 1993. So the issue that goes right to the core, the soul of what the Church of England should be standing for, which is in the name of the Father, our Father who art in heaven, and yet we've got family breakdown, and the one institution that should be making the stand is doing nothing. The politicians who should be saying the best way of tackling family breakdown and teen violence is actually plugging fathers back into families, they're doing nothing. I hadn't counted on the fact that the people running this country would wash their hands, yet these people are morally culpable for what's happening as far as we're concerned.
If you've got a question for Matt O'Connor from Fathers for Justice, this is almost